Good evening. It's good to see you. Hope you've had a good week. And each week we get a little bit more into this routine, if we want to call it that. And hope the following week will be even better as we get hopefully closer and closer to whatever normal might be. So I want to share with you a few ideas that circulated in my head this past week as I was thinking about preparing for tonight's Havdalah service. It kind of went through a twisty-turny path, and hopefully you can follow me in the way my mind worked this past week. I started by thinking about Havdalah in general, and that of course led me to think about Eliyahu Hanavi. As you know, we sing a song to Eliyahu. Some people sing it to begin the Havdalah, some people sing it to conclude the Havdalah. That's up to personal taste and traditions and family practice. But when thinking about who this character Eliyahu was, we don't know that much about him. We find him in the book of Kings in the Bible, but we don't really know that much about him, except for the fact that later folklore suggested Eliyahu was going to proclaim the arrival of the Mashiach, the Messiah. And there are some people who believe that the Messiah is a person who will magically change the world to be the better place it needs to be. Others believe that Messiah is a metaphor for a messianic period, a time in which all those good things will happen by themselves. Either way, the choice is up to you. But what's clear is that whichever of those two polar opposites you find yourself believing, Eliyahu is the ultimate symbol of hope. So listening to myself talk about Eliyahu as a symbol of hope pushed my mind into the direction of thinking of the great song of hope, Hatikva, the national anthem of the Jewish people. That got me to thinking about how the song got written, and I know, like many of you, that the composer of Hatikva was none other than a gentleman by the name of Naftali Hertz Imber. We don't know a whole lot about this gentleman, except for the fact that we know he was born in 1856 in the Ukraine. We also know that at the age of 10, he started getting interested in writing poems and had a few to his credit. When he was 19, he moved away from home, made his way through Europe, ended up in Istanbul, Turkey, where he met a British diplomat who hired him to be his personal secretary on his way to Palestine, which of course then was under the control and rule of the Ottoman Turks. So that's when he came to the land of Israel for the first time. And there he wrote some more poems. One of the poems he wrote was called Tikvatenu. It is the basis of the Hatikva that you and I all recognize. The book got published. The first book of his poems got published in the late 1880s, 1886, something like that. And over the next 10 years, while he lived in the northern part of Israel, he was living during the time of the Chalutzim, who were creating the new villages and towns like Pardes Chana and Rishon LeZion and Petah Tikva, and many of the kibbutzim and moshavim. And you know what life is like on those kibbutzim and moshavim. After a long, hard day of physical labor, the kibbutzniks or the moshavniks would love to sit around a campfire, and they would sing, and they would dance the hora, and they would listen to poetry. And meanwhile, Naftali Hertz Imber is becoming famous because of his book of poetry that just got published. And he would be invited to come share some of his poems at each of these different villages. And that's how he became a known entity, and some of his poems became popular, and Tikvatenu became the most popular. 10 years later, Theodor Herzl is organizing the first Zionist Congress to meet in Basel, Switzerland. That was 1896, 1897. And one of the first issues they agreed to do was to adapt an anthem for the Zionist movement, one that would speak to the Jewish people about their hopes and dreams and aspirations to create a Jewish homeland. There were a number of choices that they considered. Chaim Nachman Bialik was already a very famous poet. One of his poems was up for consideration. Some suggested a particular chapter from the book of Tehillim, the book of Psalms, but the majority preferred the poem of Naphtali Hertz Imber to be used as the poem to become the anthem of the Zionist movement. Now, around that same time, there was a composer of Jewish music named Shmuel Cohen. He's responsible for the musical side of Hatikva becoming Hatikva. And it turns out that he didn't really write the music. He admitted that he had a long memory as a child growing up in Romania of a particular melody and chant that was sung to him as a child, and that really is the music that forms the song Hatikva, which back in 1948, when David Ben-Gurion pronounced the Declaration of Independence, that event on May 14th, 1948, concluded by all the people in attendance standing at attention and singing Hatikva, the new national anthem of the Jewish people. Now, the story of Naphtali Hertz Imber gets a little sad, because shortly after his poem was accepted to be the national anthem, first of the movement and then of the state, his life didn't turn out so well. He ended up going back to Europe. He lived in London for a while and then ended up in New York City, where he sort of disappeared into the floor, into the ground, and nobody heard from him. He died in 1909, penniless, and he died of severe alcoholism. Was buried in a cemetery in Queens. However, in 1953, after the State of Israel was created and his words became the national anthem, the Israeli government arranged to have his remains reinterred, and they brought him to Israel to be reburied in the main large Jewish cemetery of Jerusalem, where he remains to this day. So that's the story of the composition of Hatikva. What does it have to do with Eliyahu? They both are images and symbols of hope. So as we bring this Shabbat to a close, I want to share my hope for all of you that we'll be doing fine and better, and we're getting more used to this routine. Maybe we're doing things we never did before that we're actually enjoying, and hopefully we'll retain some of those activities once this situation is over and we get back to whatever normal is for us. But I can say this, Naphtali Hertz Imber had one great action in his life that led to him being a hero. The rest of it was pretty normal. And I would hope that every one of you out there should understand that you too, like Eliyahu Hanavi, like Naphtali Hertz Imber, you have that core of greatness in you. All of us who have stayed home have exhibited greatness and heroism and courage. And because we have saved other lives. Enough have already been taken. But because of our actions staying in our homes the way we've been instructed to do, we have saved innumerable lives that otherwise might have fallen prey to this illness as well. So keep up the good work and understand what you're doing is an act of greatness, just like Naphtali Hertz Imber and simply like all the greatness represented and the hope that is represented by Eliyahu Hanavi. So let's welcome Eliyahu, and then we'll begin the Havdalah service. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimheira v'yameinu, Yavo Eleinu, Im Mashiach ben David, Im Mashiach ben David. Hopefully you have your candle ready, your wine or grape juice, and a spice. And I'll grab my guitar. We're going to bring Debbie Friedman back this week. Oh, that's right. I got to light the candle. Okay. Sorry Sorry about that.
You topsy-turvy.
Hine El Yeshua Tiaftach V'lo Echad Ki Aziv Zimrat Yadonai Vayli Yeshua Ushavtem Mayim B'Sason Mimayne Yeshua L'Adonai HaYeshua Al Amcha Birchatecha Selah Adonai Tzvot Ashrei Adam B'Teach Bach Adonai Yoshia Melech Yaneinu V'Yom Kareinu La Yehudim Hayta Ora V'Simcha V'Sason V'Ikar Kei Tialanu Kos Yeshuot Esav V'Shem Adonai Ekra Savri Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Borei Pri HaGafen. May your home be filled with light in the coming week. Shavua Tov. Have a wonderful week.
Shavua Tov.